So I am going to tell you about Restor, which is a digital platform, but before I do that, I'm actually going to introduce you to two women named Sofia Ramos and Sofia Carmo. And in 2017, their hometown, Adega in Pedrogao, Portugal, was devastated by forest fires. The fires burned for 8 days. They killed 66 people, and they injured several hundred more. It was completely devastating. It's always hard to attribute a particular cause to any one blaze, but there are often common conditions for the most disastrous ones, and we know that those conditions are growing more common with our warming planet. And in this particular case, we have non-native eucalyptus plantations that turned into a tinderbox after an early summer heat wave, and then a lightning strike lit the match in this case. After the fires in Pedrogao, communities mourned, and they also asked what's next. And Sofia Carmo, one of the two women that you saw, really took the lead there. She's a forest engineer by training, and she was determined to think about a restoration effort that would result in a more resilient landscape and decrease the chances of another catastrophic fire. And so she started to meet with landowners to discuss options, hoping to find allies. But much to her chagrin, she found mostly a business as usual attitude. People were planning to replant eucalyptus trees, and they did that because they grow fast, it's something they know, and they know how to sell it. And so Sofia has been pursuing for the last several years a two-pronged strategy. On the one hand, she's looking into new markets for native species like cork and oak, so that someday there will be alternatives from an economic perspective. And she's also working with local communities, schools, to reforest the area and to educate the next generation of people about what a resilient landscape really means. So today, let's see if this video will play. Yes, Sofia still does have many challenges, but I'm excited that she's found a place where she's beginning to find support and even some answers. That place is Restor, and we are a new open data platform founded by the Crowther Lab at ETH Zurich and developed in collaboration with Google. Here we are. Here are Sofia's sites. You can see on her profile, she's listed the support that she's looking for. She's shared photos to be able to share more about her work. And look at the data here. Here's some carbon numbers, carbon accumulation in plants. You can see how it dips in 2017. She also has access now to possible plant species that would occur in the area and environmental data to contextualize this space. And there are thousands of projects like this on Restor. Let me pull up one for you. This is in Ethiopia. Farmers are working together to bring trees back into the agricultural landscape. In addition to the carbon numbers that you saw with Sofia, which here you see are going up, you can actually also see how the water cycle is changing. Water is going up in this space because of the plants. And finally, here's a learning center. This one is in India. And I'm going to show you the high-resolution satellite imagery that we've made available for every project on the platform. And you can really track that change from 2011, when then there was almost no trees, to 2022, when it's a diverse native forest. We publicly launched Restor in October of last year. And today we host, let's see if it will move forward. There we go. Today we host about 120,000 restoration and conservation sites around the world. They represent a large range of biomes and intervention types and sizes. Restoration is many things, from transforming our agricultural practices so that we have more carbon in the soil, to bringing native shrubs and flowers into our backyards and neighborhoods to support pollinators. It might be setting aside an area and allowing it to regenerate by itself. And it also might be putting trees in the ground and planting. It's multi-intervention, it's multi-ecosystem, and all of that is on Restor today. I want to show you this distribution of sites that we have on the platform. So you can see we have the smallest of small and the largest of large, but the vast majority are less than a hectare. This is a place for everyone. Everyone is needed, and everyone is welcome. Why are we doing this? Restoration has the potential to sequester almost 300 gigatons of carbon, which is about 30% of the carbon that is accumulated in the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. It also has the possibility to improve food security for over 1 billion people, and to prevent about 60% of expected species extinctions. We're building Restor to be able to unlock this potential. Restor can't solve all of Sophia's problems. The technical challenges and the data limitations that restoration projects may face are always intertwined with social challenges and economic challenges, and they often require deep and systemic change. Restoration is messy. Changing the way that people use land is messy. But our goal is to make it easier and faster for every project around the world to overcome the barriers to success by sharing data with them, by enabling connections between them with peers and with funders and with volunteers, and by ultimately facilitating transparency to build trust and accountability in this space. As we walked, Sophia asked me what she can do for Restor. And this is one of my favorite parts of what we're building. Every one of the 120,000 projects on Restor holds a wealth of data that's ground truth from the field on biodiversity, on vegetation growth, on seedling survival, and so much more. As this data gets shared back with us, we can improve the scientific models on Restor, and in turn, we provide better data to restoration practitioners doing this work. So we're accelerating this feedback loop between local knowledge and global data so that restoration can happen at the speed and scale that it needs to. Before I end, I want to ask you to close your eyes just for one moment. And I want you to picture a place, a piece of land that's important to you in some way. Maybe it's your backyard or a local park. Maybe it's an area that you or your company supports philanthropically or is invested in. Maybe it's a space where the nature-based carbon offset that you purchased last time you took a flight is flourishing. But I want you to think about what that place has to teach. And what are the challenges? And what might you want to learn for that place from other people doing the same work? You can open your eyes again. Building a global restoration movement, unlocking the potential that I described, means getting us all on the same map. It means accelerating learning and embracing failures. It means experimentation. It means new levels of transparency and accountability. We need restoration to be faster and more effective and more inclusive and more affordable. We need to build a global restoration movement. So the invitation today is join Restor. You can be a part of it. Thank you.
All right, before we let you go completely, if you've got questions, please pop it into Slido or raise your hand. I know the crew here are constantly watching, so if you raise your hand, a mic will come to you. As you do work across the globe, are there regions that you think are more open to collaborating and working with you, and others are a little bit more hostile or just disenfranchised from the need? Where do you see most of your organic growth?
I'm so glad you've asked that. So it's always hard to determine what organic means, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, and I think the network growth discussion from before, networks can grow in very organic ways. But what we've seen is that the vast majority of sites on the platform today are actually in Latin America, a huge number in Brazil. And that means that they continue to grow in that way. It becomes this positive feedback loop where people see, oh, my neighbor's on Restor, right? Or my colleague is on Restor, and it grows and joins in that way.
What do you think it is about the culture or that region that, besides the network effect of people saying, oh, I'm doing this, you know?
I think there's a lot of good work happening. I think that there's a lot of understanding and knowledge around the challenges that deforestation faces and what is able to come back. That's true of a lot of places. But I think that, you know, our network combined with that particular place has resulted in large numbers. There are other places, so Indonesia, for example, projects face challenges sharing data because there's government restrictions around how data can be shared. And so some of it is about what's happening on the ground, some of it is about the regulatory context.
One of the things I celebrated when you were sharing your presentation is how quickly things have grown.
Yes.
And the next question that comes in from Andreas is, how did you find in such a short time all these projects?
So one of the things that we've done is hire people, sometimes part-time, sometimes full-time around the world. Sometimes they're students, people who are working on other projects, who spend time reaching out every day to the smallest scale projects they can find. And sometimes it's a Google search and sometimes it's word of mouth. But that's the way that we've grown this network, is by really trying to take advantage of people in communities where this work is happening and letting them know this resource is here. We're here to help you.
Okay. I'm not sure I entirely understand the next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
We'll see.
Will you not face Twitter challenges where you have to ban bad projects?
So I do think I understand this. It's a question around our role in facilitating who's in this community. And there are lots of pieces to this that we haven't worked through. The pieces that we have worked through, when you put a project on Restor, you have the choice. Do you make it public or do you make it private? And when you make it public, the key things that you make public are the boundaries of that area. And Restor layers on additional data there. So we're able to see what's changing. You saw that resolution, high resolution satellite imagery. You can see, does this look like a monoculture here? And we're working on additional analytics that will bring that kind of transparency to bear. So what we know is the best way to prevent quote unquote bad actors is to make this a very transparent place, to incentivize transparency, and to make sure that we're including as many on-the-ground voices as possible, because of course there's lots of things you can't see from space that are important to pay attention to, like, have communities been involved? Is the land actually yours? And that means connecting what we can do from space to what communities know on the ground.